All right, good morning, everyone. It is 10:45 and we have our October edition of LEAD. We have not been with you since August 23rd, hard to believe, but good to be back. We appreciate those that, if you aren't with us, are also listening to the recording. We are in postseason mode, it feels like, although some of our sports are not there yet, they soon will be. We appreciate our member schools who are getting ready to host quarterfinal tournaments for us and all those that are doing so in sections as well. We can go to the agenda here, Laura. I'm not going to read it for you, but we have a lengthy agenda. We're going to do our best to provide you the most pertinent information that will assist you in doing your job. I want to take you back to area meetings if we could, and remember what our agendas look like at this time, depending on where we were at in the state. The agenda varied just a little bit, but at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Phil to recap and summarize our area meetings. Phil?
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. We go to that next slide, please. Awesome. So in recap of our area meetings, we had 9 meetings in total, and we had just under 400 schools represented in those area meetings. So I think that if you took a look at the agenda that was on the prior slide, we had a pretty balanced and well planned out agenda with taking into consideration the information that we were presenting, and then also the time for interaction between not only you as athletic administrators, but with us as the league, but also with time with other ADs that are maybe more tenured, or just opportunities to speak and sit at round tables and talk. So we did take a few minutes earlier in the week and talk with our lead liaisons to get some feedback on areas that we could improve upon, or areas that we could focus on. And we took a couple of really key things from there. And one of the things was being more flexible with the agendas and creating more opportunities for collaboration in groups to communicate with each other. And then also within some of those groups, being more flexible on the conversation and the scenarios that were kind of presented to be talked about, and maybe even being more specific to each of those individual sites, or let those be dictated more by the ADs in attendance there. So every meeting was not the same. I think as they evolved and we got more comfortable as a staff, and we were able to tailor those meetings to the individual regions that we were in. So that was something that kind of shifted and morphed as the 9 meetings took place, when we started all the way up in Otter Tail, and by the time we got down to the last one here in the Brooklyn Center. So there was very clear and apparent that there was a couple areas that were given to us by the liaisons that wanted to get a little bit more meat on. And one of those was games management, or events management. And then another piece that was taken out was a more of a focus on mental health, or how to be aware of that aspect as well. So these are always valuable to be able to collaborate and get together. We also will have another opportunity in March with the MNI AAA event that will be going on at that time. And so we want to be able to create those types of opportunities. And then lastly, considering the length of time and structure of the meeting was another key point that we took away from our liaisons earlier this week. How can we tailor these meetings to be more efficient? How can we tailor these meetings to get more time with each other? Does that include possibly starting earlier and working in more breaks? Does that include creating an opportunity for more of a working lunch with some more roundtable discussion in there? And so that feedback from our lead liaisons, and just through conversations, will be really valuable for us trying to find ways to make the meeting more efficient and better and more beneficial for you. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Bob to touch on any other points on the area meetings and transition to the next slide.
Very good. Thanks, Phil. And again, thank you for all of you that were in attendance at area meetings. You're going to hear throughout this meeting how valued our lead liaisons continue to be, especially when we get into the areas of contest management. I think the other thing you should hear is that area meetings will hopefully trend or change to ways in which we can better serve you. I think one of the things that we we did note was website questions and or service there prior to our meetings. We did hear where we had it, it went well, and where we didn't have it, that they would have liked that. So I think we'll continue to take that into consideration as well. We look forward to our spring conference where, again, we'll tap into what it is that you would like us to do at that spring conference. We look forward to working with MNI AAA. Eric, I'm going to transition to you to talk about our board meeting last week. Eric?
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, everybody. Want to just say thank you for all that you've done through the fall season within your schools. It's been significant, and everyone continues to ask me how things are going, and I would say our schools are doing amazing work, and know that it is also a long season, no matter when it is, fall, winter, or spring. So appreciate that. Our board did meet a week ago today and took on a number of action items. And I think what you'll see with the results is that our board really values the feedback that we get from member schools, specifically through tools like our region committees, as well as our AD advisory, but also from our area meetings as well. And so just a quick rundown on some of the decisions that were made. In baseball and softball, our board was consistent with the feedback that was received with the regions, and they did not approve adding 4 contests to the maximum number of contests in baseball and softball at this time. So that did not pass. In music, guitar was added as a instrument that can be played within contest. And as a result, there was also a small and large ensemble for guitar as well. In speech, there were a couple of items that were approved, and those were in duo, the opportunity for the participants to be able to have some kind of physical contact during the introduction portion only. That could be a handshake, a high five, or something similar as they're doing the introduction. And the second item that was approved was the use of internet within the extemporaneous speaking category when they are doing their preparation. So we have transitioned from folders of information to computers, and now being able to use the internet during that 30-minute prep time. And then finally, in the last spring activity advisory, Clay Target was approved to add a girls-only division in the individual side of things. So that provides for 2 categories there. Females can always be a part of the team score as well. And so that addition somewhat mirrors what's happened in the wrestling world more recently in that individual side of things. So there are 2 divisions now within Clay Target. These all came through activity advisory. So these are submitted on a seasonal basis. So right now we are receiving from our fall activities, the activity advisories. And with that, our board, as they continue to work toward more effective policy governance, approved a new activity advisory proposal form. The goal of this form is to try to ensure that these activity advisory proposals are vetted by a number of individuals and or groups out there prior to coming to the board. And so that would include the coaches as well as administrators, schools, perhaps regions, and how they feel about the particular proposals to best inform the board, as well as giving a greater history and rationale as to the need for the particular change that is being requested. So those are coming in here this week, especially as we're approaching that due date for activity advisory. And those groups have been provided with that new approved form. And we're asking them to kind of tailor their proposal and add that information that's newly asked for in that new form. Alpine Ski has a slight change in date. We are moving 1 day earlier from Wednesday the 15th. It'll move to Tuesday the 14th. This was after last year, we overlapped Alpine with the first day of Nordic and recognized that primarily from a space at the facility with the chalet as well as parking and other, that this did not serve our schools and our participants best. We could run them side by side from a meet perspective, but we believe that if we run them sequentially with Alpine on the 14th and then Nordic on the 15th and 16th, we're going to have the most effective management and also the best access for all of our participants and their fans. Registered cross-country officials is another topic. This was approved by the board to move forward through the representative assembly process. So the board didn't make a decision that all cross-country meets will have a registered and eligible official. What they did is said, we recommend that that be the case, and sent it on to rep assembly. This is a bylaw change if it were to be approved. And so our regions have the opportunity to dialogue and ultimately vote on this as to whether or not that should happen. Good work has been done with the coaches and with the officials regarding having an eligible cross-country official at each one of our varsity contests. And so that will go through the rep assembly process. And finally, the adoption of activities task force continues its work, meeting every other week right now. A great energized and involved group of about 13 or 14 representatives from our schools are working through processes there by which newer activities could be considered to move into the high school league. As was shared at area meetings, one of the concepts that's strongly being considered is a status of emerging status and a way in which activities could maybe more gradually move into the high school league, be vetted, and then also be molded as they come into the league for a more gradual and transparent process as we do that work, and anticipate that this task force will have a recommendation in front of the board for their next meeting in December. Lots going on, lots of other discussions, but these are the primary action items that are taking place. Bob, I'll turn it to you for anything I missed.
Thanks, Eric. We greatly appreciate the work of our board, and great summary there, Eric. We could have spent more time, as Phil said, at our area meetings around contest management. We continue to hear just how different our events continue to feel and the number of different circumstances you experience. We also could have spent more time with our liaisons in this area earlier this week. Lisa and Phil are going to walk us through what we heard and where we're at in terms of contest management. Lisa?
Thanks, Bob. Good morning, everybody. It was very clear to us at area meetings as well as with our lead liaisons this week that this is an area that people continue to ask and look for guidance on and look for best practices on. You are each your own best support system in this. And as you know, communication that we've seen with our emergency action plans for many years is vital. And I think your planning and preparation and making sure that that planning and preparation is communicated to your site workers as well as your visiting team in the event that there are unforeseen issues is really an important piece of something going well if there is an unforeseen issue. We are working on developing some best practices we can share, but those are with you guys, and many of your conferences and many of your regions do a great job of sharing those with each other. And we would just really encourage you to work with each other and make sure that that communication ahead of time, whether it's a plan for the event or something special that's going to happen at that event, is communicated to all involved, and that you have plans with your site crew that is working that event. Implementation of those plans is really important as well. And then if things do not go as planned, making sure we're following up with the appropriate people that we need to as quickly as we possibly can. Developing site preparedness plans is definitely something that we're encouraging, and we're going to work through at the league, as well as many of you are working with your security teams on doing those things. So the things are out there. It's just a matter of gathering those resources and really making sure you're communicating with each other, which you do very well. And we see time and time again that things go very well because you plan very well. Phil, I am going to turn it to you to talk a little bit about bylaw 409 and game management.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. As far as games management, the just pulling back off the two of the things that Lisa said on communication and planning, those go a long way in the games or event management space itself, right? If there's a plan in place and we can look to multiple events or things that have happened this year where there was a plan in place and it made things go a lot better than they could have gone, I would say. And so they put us in a position to be able to execute those plans in the event that a negative situation happens, and it makes for an easier way to deal with things on the back end. So one point that I do want to mention is bylaw 409, as Lisa said, and essentially I'll just read one piece of it real quick to you. But contesting teams or individual contestants shall be accompanied by a member of a school's administration, faculty, or coaching staff. The school representative shall be responsible to act on behalf of the member school. That's home or away. That's something that was talked about a little bit in our area meetings, was the responsibility of both participating teams to have supervision there to help make the event go smooth, right? So that's one thing that I'd like to just challenge you to check out that bylaw, read it, get familiar with it. And as far as the communication aspect of that, being in good communication with everything, especially moving into postseason here, on who's going to be present, who's going to be responsible, and helping assist those teams, as everyone has a lot of moving parts right now as we're moving into postseason for the fall. And then lastly, administrative reps during postseason for contests. This is this aligns back with that communication message and making sure that we have a plan as the individual school that's participating in those postseason contests on how to deal with certain situations, whether it's students, whether it's your student athletes, or helping assisting coaches during that as well. But the administrative reps for a postseason contest are huge to make sure that the games and contests go as planned. Bob, I'll turn it back to you.
Good, thank you. And the health, safety, and wellness of our students and those at our events is always of utmost importance. Again, we have hundreds of contests on any given night, and so many of them go so well. Thank you for your efforts in that. But also know we're going to continue to provide resources and have those conversations around contest management, especially as we enter into the winter season. Questions that we're getting around the postseason and or things to be aware of. Just a reminder on bylaw 206 and ineligible athletes, the inability to be on the sideline or in participation on the court, on the field, so on. Official rosters, if you have not been abiding by the official roster size during the regular season, please know that goes into effect during the postseason. Be aware what those roster sizes are for your managers, your student athletes, as well as your coaches. Understand the difference between substitutions of an injury versus COVID. We still have the COVID substitution form under COVID resources. Again, know the difference between the two. If there is an injury or if there is COVID regarding student participants, admin reps, you heard Phil say that. We will continue to talk about those for the postseason sections and or state. They will vary by tournament. Again, we want our tournaments to be safe, well run, and not have to worry about cleanup on the back end of our tournaments. We have had section tournament managers meetings in each of our sports. These are many of the topics that we discuss. We appreciate the efforts of our tournament managers and really just hosting incredible opportunities in postseason for our member schools. Also, there will be state tournament qualifier meetings. For instance, in football, we'll probably have 3 of those just because each level of the tournament varies depending on the site. Be prepared that those will be via Zoom or online. Just a reminder that section seating is managed by your sections. We have consistency policies that are in place, but section managers and or region secretaries are responsible for seating again at the section level. Always reminder around our general election, that is November 8th this year. Again, no competitions between 6 and 8 p.m. for general elections. At this time, I am going to turn it back to Lisa, I believe, at this time.
Perfect. Thanks, Bob. And first and foremost, I wanted to thank all of you who were able to participate in Together We Make a Difference. It was very nice to see all of you and interact with your students in a really positive way. I wanted to just give an update, and Charlie's going to jump in as well. With Together We Make a Difference, we've been hearing a lot of information about what's next and what can we expect. And I just wanted to kind of recap on where we are and what we've done. We've done the training of student champions over the summer. The 7 sites that were phenomenal hosts for our 1,500 students and 150 participating schools. We are very appreciative of that, and we couldn't have done this initiative without those host sites. So thank you so much. We are going to work on synthesizing the data that was collected at those sites, and then we will be getting information out shortly to you on a statewide event. We will be synthesizing data with students and some administrators from each of the regions, and we will be sharing that information hopefully in the next week as those that can be involved with that. That will be a small group that we work with to do that. And then we're hoping that our end goals are many things, but some specifics would be student created code of conduct behavior guide with specific language, and public messaging. And Charlie, I'm not sure if you want to share a few other pieces with Together We Make a Difference.
I will. Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everybody. And it's just, I think it's important to note too that the outcomes here for what we think is the first time the high school league is working with the top educational leadership organizations in Minnesota around a common cause with a desire for some common outcomes. Lisa talked a little bit about that, but really providing an opportunity for students from all schools to come together to elevate their voice, to provide input and direction in a hopes that we will have language and expectation on what school should look like and what school events should look like in terms of behavior and also that expectation. And this is a very similar process if you're familiar with league history going back to the late 70s, where there was a statewide sportsmanship summit that was convened, and it provided decades of guidance to the league and to member schools. And we believe that that this process is going to facilitate similar outcomes as well. We can move to the SALT slide. Thanks, Susie. The Student Advisory and Leadership Team, in a similar vein, but entirely different. What is this? Well, this is a really intentional effort and decision that we've made as a league to engage students so that they can provide input and direction to the board of directors and to league staff. In addition, we really hope to build leadership capacity in these students with the idea that they'll go back to their representative spaces and regions and build leadership capacity with more students, a ripple effect, if you will. Who are we looking for? Juniors and seniors from all across Minnesota. We'd like this pool to be representative, and we expect that it will be. And we will continue to encourage you to reach out to students in your school that would make good additions to this group. It is not a large group, whereas Together We Make a Difference, we were able to engage 1,500 students from across 150 schools. This is going to be a much smaller group. We envision a committee of about 20 students. About half of that committee will rotate off every year. But right now we are looking for juniors and seniors from your high school. There's an application, a web form that can be completed online. If you direct your students to that web form and they complete a very simple application, including a few writing prompts, students can submit responses to those prompts in a variety of ways, either through a video, by attaching a PDF or Word doc, or simply by typing into the web form. That will trigger an email to you and your high school principal to fill out a character reference and offer us a paragraph or two in response to that applicant and what they might bring to that committee. And so again, just encourage you to identify students in your school and apply for this pretty neat opportunity to engage students and elevate their voice and provide us with some input and direction. With that, I'm going to kick it back over to Bob to talk competitive section placement and district football.
Thank you, Charlie. And Charlie and Lisa, thank you for your efforts on both of these endeavors. If there's solutions that we know we need, we know that our students are a part of those solutions. We appreciate hearing those voices and these opportunities for our schools. Great questions coming in. This is a year again, which we engage in the competitive section placement process. This form, I recommend creating a shortcut again under competitive section placement, especially for this year. It will be a lengthy process. Note that the red dates, and we'll see it on the next slide as well, are where you're engaged as a school and have responsibility. Just remember that these policies around number of classes or number of schools that participate in a sport or activity, that's found in board policy in the 400 series of our handbook. Again, this will come out in today's update as well. Also, look forward to a session or sessions in December for schools that have particular questions around competitive section placement. We'll engage in those, try and answer those questions, just to make sure that you and your school have the best information, but are also making the right decisions. Again, refer anyone back to this form on that timeline and look for more information as those enrollments come out sometime in February. Again, we wish they would be faster from the Department of Education, but we will do the best once we get them. On the next slide, again, just note these red dates, all right? Both on the district football side of things, as well as competitive section placement. Your enrollment numbers should be in with the Department of Education already. If you are a non-public, please note that you can claim your students, again, that may qualify for free and reduced lunch. And then note that March 3rd, if you qualify for appeal, that would be the time to be able to do so. At the same time, for those schools that would like to play 9-player football, you need to declare that at that time. Please remember that district football will parallel the competitive section placement process. All right, if there are no further questions, I'm going to turn it over to, I believe, Laura at this time for our, is it Charlie's? Are we heading to you, Charlie?
Yeah, it's going to come to me, Bob. Thanks. Just to start us off with our quick takes, Thank a Ref materials can be found now in your dashboard. So please consider an opportunity to show your appreciation to our officials and maybe leverage your presence on social media or the opportunities you have in your own community to elevate and appreciate our officials, just as one opportunity to raise awareness and maybe get the word out that we could use more of them. Please note that your music educators have an opportunity to submit scores of music for approval, but that needs to be done through the dashboard. It's a new process. Your music educator is familiar with this process because the MMEA has been engaged and involved. But if you, I know as an AD, I was not always as engaged as I ought to have been with the music side of the administration responsibilities. And in some of your schools, you may have an administrator that's not you, that works directly with fine arts folks. But please encourage your music folks to make a dashboard. And if they have any music that they'd like to submit for approval, it can be done there. Excel Award is up and ready. A number of you asked questions, especially coming out of area meetings. Hey, I can't find the application. You will find that application now is up and ready. And you will also find information in your dashboard when it's time to submit. And just a reminder that the deadline is December 9th, that those are due in our office. Your school winners or nominees are due in our office December 9th. You're going to see in the update today a few state tournament date changes that our board of directors has approved. Eric referenced Alpine Ski earlier in the meeting. We know, shared with you earlier that the Prep Bowl was moved back a week due to the Viking schedule. Just please look at those dates carefully. Make sure you note any changes and adjustments in your own calendar so that you and your coaching staffs can plan appropriately. Also in the update, you are going to see some information regarding wrestling weight class feedback. If you are a wrestling school, we are going to reach out to you on Monday, October 24th, and provide some information for you to illustrate an opportunity to provide feedback to us here at the league on some rules changes that are coming into wrestling for the 23 and 24 season. The state of Minnesota has to choose whether we are going to offer 12, 13, or 14 weight classes in the sport of wrestling. At present, we offer 14, and that's where we compete. And the NFHS rules have changed and are providing flexibility to schools. We want to present our board of directors with your feedback. So look for information on that showing up in the update and the Monday or Tuesday following the MEA break. And we will continue to remind you on our next lead meeting. And the intention is that you and your wrestling coach would have conversations about the best option for your school and for wrestling that you would submit to us, one response for feedback. We continue to get questions in our office about special recognition, and uniform modifications. Please note that there is a link at the very bottom of the MSHSL resources in your dashboard. And If you have any intention of doing some kind of recognition or some sort of honor program, please note the restrictions and what is allowed by checking out that document. And if you have further questions, please contact the administrator here in the league office that's responsible for that sport, which brings us to our last bullet point. Use the MSHSL staff directory button in your dashboard. If you can reach out to the correct person in our office right out of the gate, it helps us to serve you most effectively and efficiently. We don't expect that you're going to remember who's responsible for everything that we do here in the league office, but we provide that directory so that it makes it a little bit easier for you to direct your information to the right staff member. I see that Laura is with us, so I'm going to pass the baton to her to run us through the checklist before we close out the meeting for today. Laura?
Thanks, Charlie. And as we've had at the end of most lead meetings, a quick checklist for you to take and make sure these are on your radar. A reminder that MSHSL Foundation Form A applications are due on October 28th. That does have two parts to it. One is an online submission and then also a board resolution. A reminder that is money that comes back to your school based on the number of students you have receiving free and reduced lunch or educational benefits. Bob referenced earlier that the competitive section placement and district football timelines are now up. Take some time and review those with any other folks that you might need to bring into that conversation with you. Coach education requirements. As we move toward postseason, do a second double check on each of your coaches to make sure that they have met the learning requirements that they're required to. Roster schedules and results should be syncing to the State High School League website. Do a confirmation on that. As we move toward winter, start to think about getting your winter coaches accounts and dashboards. And then we've also referenced our fine arts folks here as we talked about music. Making sure that those fine arts folks have dashboards so that they are getting the best information also. You may have some head coaches this winter who do not yet have head coaching certification. There are courses being offered between now and the beginning of the winter season, so please check that. And then finally, if you have students that you've been holding on to put into the transfer portal before the winter season, please find those students and get those pieces entered also. I'm going to turn it to Bob to wrap up today's lead meeting.
Well done, everyone. Thanks for your attendance here again today. Hopefully the information was helpful and will assist you to continue to do the great job that you do. We will see you back here Thursday, November 3rd. As always, call or email with questions. Have a great day. Keep up the great work. Thank you.